You've been lied to. Not maliciously, not intentionally, but systematically. By people who meant well, by doctors who were following guidelines, by a food industry that has spent billions convincing you that what they sell is healthy. And the lie is this. The lie is that blood sugar is the problem. It's not. Blood sugar is the messenger, and you've been shooting the messenger while the real culprit quietly destroys your health from the inside. Let me tell you something that might change everything you think you know about diabetes. The diagnosis you received, the one that made you feel like your body had betrayed you, that diagnosis was probably 20 years too late. Maybe more. Here's why. Let me introduce you to two numbers that will completely change how you understand your health. The first number is the one your doctor measures, the one you worry about, the one that shows up on your lab results and makes you feel like you've failed. That number is glucose. The second number is the one your doctor almost never measures, the one that could have predicted your diagnosis 2 decades ago, the one that would have shown you exactly when your body started heading toward trouble. That number is insulin. And here's the terrifying part. Your blood sugar stays stable for years, sometimes decades, while your insulin quietly climbs higher and higher. Your body is working harder and harder to keep that blood sugar in a safe range. But nobody's measuring the effort. They're only measuring the result. By the time your blood sugar finally goes up, by the time you get that diagnosis, your body has been fighting a losing battle for years, maybe 20 years, maybe more. The machine is already broken by the time the warning light comes on. I want you to think about something. Think about the last time you went to the doctor. Did they check your insulin levels? Probably not. Most doctors don't. They check your glucose. They tell you you're fine. They send you home, and you feel relieved. But what if you're not fine? What if your insulin is already climbing? What if your body is already struggling, and nobody's looking at the right numbers? This is the hidden story of diabetes. The story nobody tells you. The story of the 20-year warning you never received. Now I need you to understand something about how this works. And I'm going to explain it in a way that will make it impossible to forget. Imagine your body is a machine. A very complex, very well-designed machine. And one of the things this machine does is process carbohydrates. It takes the sugar from your food and moves it into your cells, where it becomes energy. To do this, your machine uses a tool called insulin. Think of insulin as a key. It unlocks the doors of your cells and lets sugar inside. When you're young and healthy, you have lots of keys. The doors open easily. Sugar goes in. Everything works perfectly. But here's what happens over time. Every time you eat a high-carb meal, your machine has to produce more keys, more insulin. It unlocks the doors and shoves the sugar inside. And it works, for a while. But the cells start to get tired of this. They start to say, "We've had enough. We're full. Please stop forcing sugar in here." So they start to resist. They change the locks. The keys don't work as well anymore. Your body has to produce even more keys to get the same job done. This is called insulin resistance, and it develops slowly, quietly, over years. Here's the thing about insulin resistance. You can have it for a long, long time and never know it. Your blood sugar stays normal because your body is working overtime to keep it normal. But the overtime is costing you. Your pancreas is getting exhausted. Your liver is getting overloaded. Your cells are getting more and more resistant. And nobody's checking. The standard medical guidelines will tell you that a fasting blood sugar under 100 is normal. They'll tell you you're fine. They'll send you on your way. But here's what those guidelines don't tell you. 88% of American adults have some degree of insulin resistance. Almost 9 out of 10. Think about that. 9 out of 10 people have bodies that are struggling to process sugar effectively. And most of them have no idea. Because nobody's checking their insulin. This is why I want you to understand something that goes against everything you've been taught. The food pyramid. The low-fat recommendations. The complex carbohydrates are good for you message. The advice to eat whole grains and reduce fat. That advice was designed for a healthy, insulin-sensitive population. It works for young athletes. It works for people who aren't struggling with their metabolism. But if you're insulin resistant, that advice will make you sicker. It will move you from prediabetes to diabetes. It will make your blood sugar worse. It will make your insulin resistance worse. Because the body of someone with insulin resistance cannot handle carbohydrates the same way. So what actually causes high blood sugar? What's the real culprit? Let me break this down in a way that makes sense. Carbohydrates raise blood sugar. That's what they do. But not all carbohydrates are the same, and the difference matters enormously. There are 3 main sources of carbohydrates in your diet. The first is sugar, table sugar, high fructose corn syrup, honey, maple syrup, the sweet stuff. Sugar is 50% glucose and 50% fructose. The glucose raises your blood sugar. The fructose does something even worse. It goes straight to your liver, and it overwhelms your liver. It turns into fat inside your liver. This is the primary cause of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Not fat, not cholesterol, sugar, fructose. In fact, fatty liver used to be something only alcoholics got. It was called alcoholic fatty liver disease. But today, the most common cause is sugar. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is an epidemic, and we're giving it to our children. The second source of carbohydrates is starch. Bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, oats, corn. The things we've been told are complex carbohydrates and good for us. Here's the truth about starch. Starch is just glucose molecules linked together in a chain. When you eat a potato, your saliva starts breaking that chain immediately. The enzymes in your mouth start chopping those glucose molecules apart. By the time that potato hits your stomach, much of it is already becoming sugar. Starch raises your blood sugar even faster than table sugar. That's a fact. A potato will spike your blood sugar quicker than a spoonful of white sugar. Because the sugar has 50% fructose, which has to be processed by the liver first. The starch is pure glucose, and it hits your bloodstream almost instantly. You've been told that complex carbohydrates are healthy. But what makes a carbohydrate complex is just that there are more molecules linked together. It's still glucose. It still becomes sugar. It still spikes your blood sugar. It still drives insulin. The third source of carbohydrates is fiber. This is the one that's actually good for you. Fiber is also a carbohydrate, but your body can't digest it. It passes through your system and feeds your gut bacteria. It helps you feel full. It slows down the absorption of other sugars. This is why vegetables are healthy. Broccoli, cauliflower, leafy greens. They have carbohydrates, but they're mostly fiber and water. The sugar content is minimal. The absorption is slow. They don't spike your blood sugar. This is the key insight. The problem isn't carbohydrates. The problem is the concentrated ones, the refined ones, the starchy ones, the sugary ones. And it's important to understand that protein also affects blood sugar. Not nearly as much as carbohydrates, but it does. When you eat more protein than your body needs for tissue repair, the excess gets converted into glucose. But this is a slow process. It doesn't spike your blood sugar. It's a gentle rise, a manageable one. Fat, on the other hand, barely affects blood sugar at all. The fatty acids themselves can't become sugar. There's a tiny bit of glycerol in fat that can be converted, but it's so small that it's almost negligible. This is why a high-fat, low-carb diet has almost no impact on blood sugar. It's not magic, it's biology. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because understanding this mechanism gives you the power to change it. If insulin resistance is the real problem, then lowering your blood sugar isn't the goal. Lowering your insulin is the goal. Because if you lower your insulin resistance, your blood sugar will naturally come down. So how do you lower insulin? First, stop eating sugar. Not reduce, stop. Sugar is 50% fructose, and fructose is the primary driver of fatty liver and insulin resistance. If you do nothing else, eliminating sugar will make a massive difference. Second, reduce overall carbohydrates. Not eliminate, reduce. Your body needs some carbohydrates, but it doesn't need the large amounts you've been told it needs. It certainly doesn't need the 100 or 200 grams a day that the standard diet provides. Third, choose your carbohydrates wisely. Eat leafy greens. Eat non-starchy vegetables. Eat small amounts of berries. Avoid grains, potatoes, corn, and rice. Avoid anything that's been processed into flour. Fourth, consider intermittent fasting. When you're not eating, your body isn't producing insulin. The longer you can go without spiking your insulin, the more sensitive your cells become to it. And here's something most people get wrong. Exercise. The common belief is that you need to do intense exercise to burn off the sugar. That's backwards. Gentle exercise is better. Walking, light jogging, bicycling at a comfortable pace. When you exercise gently, your muscles burn fat. They also absorb glucose without needing insulin. The contractions of your muscles open the doors for sugar to enter, even if insulin isn't working. Intense exercise, on the other hand, creates stress. Your body releases cortisol. Cortisol raises blood sugar. Your liver starts dumping glucose into your bloodstream to give you energy for the fight or flight response. And if you're insulin resistant, that sugar stays in your blood. So slow down. Take a walk. Let your muscles gently absorb the sugar. Now, I need you to understand something about the timeline here. It takes about 20 years of insulin resistance to become diabetic. 20 years of your body fighting, compensating, producing more and more insulin. 20 years of your cells slowly becoming more resistant. 20 years of your pancreas working overtime. But here's the good news. It takes a lot less time to reverse it. If you stop spiking your insulin, if you stop overloading your body with carbohydrates, if you give your cells a break, they can become more sensitive again. It's not instant, but it's faster than you think. And here's the thing. When you start eating differently, when you reduce your carbohydrates and eliminate sugar, something remarkable happens. Your body starts to heal. Your insulin levels come down. Your blood sugar stabilizes. Your energy increases. Your weight starts to normalize. And you realize that you weren't broken. You were just following the wrong advice. Let me tell you about the machine we're talking about, because it's the key to everything. Your pancreas produces insulin. It's a small organ, but it's mighty. When you eat carbohydrates, your pancreas releases insulin to bring your blood sugar down. But here's what happens when you overwork it. Your pancreas can only produce so much insulin. It has a capacity. And when you push it to its limit day after day, year after year, eventually it starts to wear out. The cells that produce insulin get exhausted. They start to fail. This is when you become diabetic. This is when your blood sugar starts to climb. Not because you suddenly changed your diet, because your pancreas finally gave out. Think about that. The diagnosis of diabetes doesn't happen when you start having a problem. It happens when your body can no longer compensate. It's the final stage of a decades-long process, and we're catching it at the very end. This is why I'm so passionate about this topic, because I've seen what happens when people understand, when they realize they've been following advice that was making them sicker, when they make changes and watch their numbers improve. I've seen people go from diabetic to pre-diabetic. I've seen people go from pre-diabetic to normal. I've seen people eliminate their medication. I've seen people get their lives back, not because they did something complicated, because they stopped doing something destructive. Here's what I want you to take away from this. The number on your blood sugar test isn't the problem. It's the symptom. It's the warning signal. It's the result of a process that's been going on for years. If you want to fix your blood sugar, you have to fix your insulin resistance. And to fix your insulin resistance, you have to stop overloading your body with carbohydrates. It's that simple, and it's that hard. Because we've been told our whole lives that carbohydrates are healthy, that whole grains are good for us, that we need to eat plenty of complex carbohydrates, that fat is bad, that we should eat low fat. And none of that is true for someone who's insulin resistant. For someone whose body has been struggling to process sugar for years, following that advice is like pouring gasoline on a fire. This is why 88% of Americans have insulin resistance, because we're following advice that's making us sick. We're eating the foods that are driving our insulin up. We're avoiding the foods that would help. I want you to think about something. Think about your grandparents. Think about how they ate. They didn't have soda. They didn't have processed snacks. They didn't have fast food. They ate real food. They ate meat and vegetables and fat. They ate the foods that our bodies were designed to eat. And they didn't have these rates of diabetes and obesity and heart disease, not because they were healthier, because their food was healthier. We've changed our food. We've filled it with sugar and refined carbohydrates and vegetable oils. We've taken the nutrients out and put the cheap calories in. And we've told ourselves it's healthy. So let me ask you something. Are you willing to look at your diet differently? Are you willing to question the advice you've been given for decades? Are you willing to make a change? Because the evidence is clear. The standard approach doesn't work. The low-fat, high-carb guidelines have been failing for 50 years. and we're sicker than ever. But there's another way. A way that works with your body instead of against it. A way that lets you heal. A way that's been known for over 100 years. A way that's been suppressed because it doesn't make money for the food industry. Here's how you start. Eat real food. Meat, fish, eggs, vegetables, healthy fats. That's it. That's the list. If it came from a plant or an animal, eat it. If it came from a factory, don't. Avoid sugar. Avoid flour. Avoid grains. Avoid potatoes. Avoid anything that's been processed into a powder. Eat until you're full. Don't count calories. Don't restrict. Just eat real food. And watch what happens. Within weeks, your blood sugar will start to stabilize. Your insulin levels will drop. Your energy will increase. Your cravings will diminish. Your body will start to heal, and you'll wonder why nobody told you this before. This is the absolute best way to lower blood sugar. Not a medication, not a supplement, not a quick fix. A complete shift in how you think about food. Because the problem isn't your blood sugar. The problem is what's causing your blood sugar. And the solution is to stop eating the foods that are driving it. So I want you to do something. I want you to look at your pantry. I want you to look at your fridge. I want you to look at the labels on the food you eat. And I want you to ask yourself one question. Is this food helping me, or is it hurting me? Because once you know the truth, you can't unknow it. And once you know, you can make a change. And that change can save your life. Now, I want to hear from you. What's been your experience with blood sugar? Have you tried changing your diet? What happened? Your story might help someone else who's struggling. And if you know someone who's been diagnosed with diabetes or prediabetes, or who's just been told they need to watch their blood sugar, share this with them. It might be the most important thing they ever watch. One more thing. I don't want you to just take my word for it. I want you to test this for yourself. Try a low-carb diet. Eat real food for 30 days. See how you feel. Check your blood sugar. Check your insulin if you can. You'll see the difference. And when you do, don't keep it to yourself. Tell someone. Share this information. Because the more people who understand this, the more people who can be healthy. We've been lied to for too long. It's time to take back our health. Thank you for watching. If you found this valuable, please subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.